Hello, Danny. I'll be very polite. Please, please, please. Just a note before we start, there's no passing of the basket. I'm doing this gratis tonight. But if you feel free to drop a couple of dollars on the floor, we'll pick it up. Welcome, everybody, to our Candidates Night, sponsored by the Mendon Brothers of the Brush. At this time, I would like to introduce the Vice President of the Brothers. What's his name? Oh, Jonathan Dudley. Jonathan?
Thanks, Dickie. So, like Danny said, thank you guys for coming out tonight. Dan, Mike's going to be on.
Well,
okay. So again, thank you all for coming tonight. On behalf of the brothers, the whole group, we've been putting this on for how many years now, Dickie?
a lot.
A lot. I just want to thank the candidates that are here tonight for taking time away from your family, your life to serve this community. So, I mean, thank you from the brothers. We do have refreshments here tonight, so help yourselves. And at this time, I would like everybody to stand so we can start with the national anthem. Oh, no, sorry, not the national anthem. Thanks for that, Tom. The Pledge of Allegiance. Flag. To the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Just a couple of housekeeping notes, if I may, please. We'd like to thank the Muffin House for donating the refreshments this evening. Thank you, Muffin House. We also, for those that are calling in remotely, please raise your hand and mute your mic. And between the two of us, we'll figure this out. Please shut off your cell phones if you're here in the audience. And I would certainly want to congratulate, and I wish he would stand, we want to congratulate Mark Reel for his years of service to the Mendon Board of Selectmen. Mark, thank you. We're going to do the order by the names and the sheets that's on the ballot. So if the moderator is here, Tom Morelli, Tom, you're allowed to come up and say something. I understand Tom's not going to be here.
I'm actually remotely. I'm actually on remote. Thank you so much for putting this together. You guys hear me all right?
Yes, yes, we can.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for putting this together. As always, I apologize. I worked till 7 tonight, so I'm actually, on my way home, and so I apologize that I couldn't be there. But thanks again for allowing people to participate remotely. Tom Morelli, lifelong Mendon resident, running for my second term as a moderator. Past year, overseeing 3 different town meetings. Open town meeting form of government is the most democratic form of government that exists in the United States of America. And so it quite literally shows the power of people to be able to govern themselves and to change. And I've cherished every moment that I've been able to be part of this brand tradition. In the past year, I've tried to do everything I can to make town meeting more accessible to people, to be fair and balanced as possible, and to see our way through some pretty contentious discussions in the most civil way possible. Hope you'll give me the chance to continue to do so. And I'd also, any advice you might have to actually I am all ears. Feel free to give me a call anytime. My number is 508-498-6533. I'd love to hear your suggestions. And again, thank you for giving me the chance to do this for the past year, and I hope you'll give me the chance to do so again. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Michael. We appreciate you joining us. Did anybody have any
I'm
questions?
Tom, actually.
That's what I said. Tom. Didn't I say Tom? Oh. Anybody have any questions for Tom? Any comments? Thank you, Tommy. Next, we're going to call up. We're going to mute you, Tommy. And next, we're going to call up the two folks that are running for the 3-year board selectmen. I'd like to call up Elena Brugos and Michael Jones. Would you join us up here, please? Alina, would you tell us a little bit about yourself, and then you can spend a couple of minutes
Sure.
on your remarks.
Okay. Hi, my name's Elena Brugos. I'm originally from California, but I've been living in Mendon now for 23 years, which is a lot longer than I ever lived in California. So Mendon is where I put down my roots. So I'm a homeowner. I had my kids here. My kids went to the Mendon schools. And I've gotten involved with the community in a number of different ways. So I've gone to town meeting for many years and voted in town elections, but I really dove in about 7 years ago when there was an override vote. And as a parent, I supported the schools, but I really took it to heart when people talked about how the increase in taxes was going to adversely affect our town senior citizens. And I didn't like the idea that anyone could get taxed out of their home. So I took it to heart, as I said, and I did a little research because that's what I do. And I found that there were some tax relief programs that Mendon did not have. And so I encouraged the Board of Selectmen at that time to consider starting the Tax Aid Committee. And they did, and they appointed me as the first town resident. And in the 7 years since the Tax Aid Committee has started, we have administered a donation-based fund. And then more recently, we've been working towards getting a new tax exemption, a new means-based tax exemption for senior citizens, which is currently going through the legislature. So I've also been involved with a lot of other volunteer work in Mendon, recently through the Solarize Mendon Upton program to help both work towards green goals, towards a sustainable future, but also to help people save money on their energy bills. And through that program, I worked with other people in town and in Upton, and we got enough people participating in the community that the solar installer is going to be donating the benefit of a 25,000 watt solar system to a nonprofit in Mendon or Upton. And so we're currently working on figuring out a way that both towns can benefit from that. Let's see. In addition, professionally, I'm a researcher. I'm an academic researcher. So my whole career is based on collaborative work. So whether it's working together to design research projects or analyze data or present, write up papers, I've been doing that with groups of researchers for many years. I also do some college level teaching and mentoring of young people, because I think that is part of the way forward, is to mentor the next generation to step up. So I hope to bring all of those skills to the select board here in Mendon. So, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. Mike?
Hey, everybody, thank you for coming. My name's Mike Jones. So I grew up in Holliston, got married, moved to Uxbridge, lived there and moved to Mendon in about 2013. I've lived here since. I've bought a home and built a home here, and my business is here as well. It's a town much like the town I grew up in, which is exactly where I want to be. It's a one-stoplight town, and I enjoy that very much. From a working standpoint, I've put myself in a good position where previously I didn't have a lot of engagement in town politics, but it was always something that interested me very much. You know, I've got my business to a place where I have the time now to do that, and I don't know if you guys are familiar with last year. I did run, like Mike Moroli was the winner there in that election, but since then, and to credit to him who letting me know about the Finance Committee opportunity, I've been on the Finance Committee now for a year. I'm the chairman, and things have gone well. It's been a great experience. I spent the last year getting to know all the different ins and outs of all the departments, and you know, working with the select board, the town administrator, the different department heads. It's been a really good experience, and I look forward to doing more of it. You know, from a standpoint of bringing this to the table, I'm definitely looking forward to the opportunity to serve the town and, you know, be a leader for everyone around us, to get the boards and the different departments and everyone to work together, you know, basically harmoniously and to the town's benefit.
Thank you. We're going to allow, obviously, questions to each candidate. We have a wireless mic that Jonathan will be going out, so it'll be a lot easier for you folks. So who in the audience would like to ask a question of either candidate?
My name is Joyce Gilmore. I live on 23 Hastings Street, corner of Washington Street. And my question for both of you is, what's your goal for the town? You suggested that one of your goals was the one light town?
Well, yes.
That I'm interested to see how that could, you think how that would be working. So if one of the others can start, whatever.
Is that the question, Joyce?
Yes, what are your goals? What are your goals for the following 3 years?
Mike, would you like to go first?
Yeah, that's not a
We'll
problem.
alternate the questions back and forth.
I mean, from a goal standpoint, I don't have an agenda coming into this where I'm directly looking to do any one thing or another. My biggest piece is to, you know, I want to keep Mendon intact the way it is. I want to explore the ideas of, you know, whether municipal water is available and things like that, but also make sure that we do it in a way that doesn't impact, you know, the residential side. Like, it would be great to do it economically for the industrial or commercial locations, but at the same time, we want to make sure we don't end up with a bunch of four families. So you're kind of using that balance to, you know, basically gauge where we go to keep Mendon looking like Mendon, but, you know, able to, you know, finance and support future endeavors that the town wants to get involved in, maybe a new fire station down the road, and making sure that we have the tax base to support those things. And that's kind of where I see things. And then, you know, from what I've seen in the last year and paying attention to it, you know, the select board is very, well, it's a part of it is very reactive. Things are coming to you that you have to make decisions on. It's very hard to say any one thing or another until that problem is in front of you, and the facts are in front of you, and you know how to make a decision based on whatever's happening directly in front of you.
Elena, would you like to respond to the question?
I mean, I think it sounds like our goals for Mendon are pretty compatible. I think, you know, Mendon is such a wonderful place, and we want to preserve the natural beauty and the historic charm of the town. We are dealing with growth no matter what, and so I'm hoping that you know, we can really pay attention to the master plan, that so much work has been going into the master plan over the last few years. So with a lot of input from many people in the town. So I agree, we need to keep looking into the infrastructure improvements, such as, you know, water, to try and increase our commercial tax base. I also really applaud the transparency that the board has, that the whole town and the board has been embracing lately, so that having the meetings be accessible online and recorded has been really hugely helpful, I know, for getting more community engagement, because I would say if that is an additional goal, it would be more community engagement, getting more people involved with what's going on in our town at every level. And I think it's such a big step forward to have the remote the hybrid meetings and the recordings online. I know for me, it's been wonderful to be able to go on the YouTube channel and get caught up on meetings that I've missed.
Good. Thank you. Any other questions, please, from the audience here? Any questions from those that are watching us? Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't see your hand. I'm sorry.
Drive. My question has to do with collaboration between the select board and the school committee. Our schools bring value to our town, and I know notoriously in the past there's always been struggles between funding, maintaining the quality in our schools, but still being mindful of budgets. So I'm wondering what type of collaborative efforts will you both bring to trying to get us closer together and working towards the same common goal?
Elena, would you go first?
Sure. Well, I think one advantage that we have now when we're increasing the board to 5 members is that there will be more people to share the workload. So I think it would be great if a member could regularly attend the school committee meetings so that there was more direct interaction in that way. So I think, right, it should be more of a cooperative relationship, because I think sometimes it feels like it's adversarial and it shouldn't be. So I think, yeah, that would be one thing I would hope.
Mike?
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely agree with that, and if I'm not mistaken, I believe the select board has already discussed that, and the fact is that with the extra members in the select board, that more of the select board members will be attending different meetings and keeping the select board more informed about what's happening at the different meetings, so.
Good, thank you both. Anybody else in the audience? Anyone watching us? Oh, we're off the hook. Oh, we're off the hook. That's great. We're off the hook, man. This is great.
We got a hand raised.
Oh,
That would be Deb Lane.
Deb Lane?
Hi.
Hi.
This might be a difficult question to answer, but I thought I'd throw it out there. If and unfortunately maybe when the strip club is built, what ideas do you have to mitigate the inevitable issues that'll come with that type of business?
I don't know if I'm going to allow, it's up to you guys. You want to answer that?
I mean, the only thing that I could say on that matter would be that, you know, if elected, I'd have to look at whatever judgments are made and plans are approved and then make sure that they worked in order or in line with whatever was originally created.
Elena?
Yeah, I don't have any particular ideas. I know, yeah.
Well, thank you for your question. We appreciate it. Okay, guys, thank you. So you guys have a question of each other? I mean, you guys seem to get along so well.
I mean, I just met you, so I can't say that I have any direct questions.
This is your nickel.
Not right now, but I think I can find your email. So.
Good.
Listen,
Good luck. Good luck to both of you. Thank you. And now the 2-year terms for the Select Board, Brendan Chanel, Justin Harshall, and Dianna Steves. Would you guys please come up? Smart move, put the young lady in the middle. Smart move.
Oh, and thank you for calling me young lady.
I was referring to Justin. So why don't you introduce yourself to the audience and give us whatever ideas you have.
I did make a couple of notes, so.
That's fine.
But I can tell you my name without looking at my notes. My name is Dianna Steves, and I'm a 20-year resident of Mendon. Probably most of you know my husband, Ted Steves, better than you know me. We are the parents of 3 children and 5 grandchildren, and we certainly love Mendon very much. Our kids went through the Nipmuc school system. I'm an elder and treasurer at Faith in Christ Church right down the street, and I do financial counseling through the church for people who have trouble managing their bills. I also work as a financial controller, and I have my own business. I would say about myself that I'm fiscally conservative. I am concerned about the number of people that might get taxed out of this community as senior citizens. It's something that's crossed my mind as well. And so that's one of the reasons that I decided I wanted to run. I love the schools. My kids went through the schools, but the schools can't be the only thing that we spend our money on. So I think that's one of my major concerns. I'd like to keep Mendon with its unique feel. It's got a nice country feel. My husband and I lived in Milford for about 15 years, and we couldn't wait to get out of Milford and get to Mendon. We love the feel of this community. We love the country feel. We have chickens in our backyard. We do have a rooster. He's obviously not as notorious as the rooster they were talking about the other night, but we have animals, and we love that country feel that Mendon has, and we want to hang on to it, and we know that growth is inevitable. I love that we're doing the master plan and the master survey, and I think that's all good stuff, and I'm one of those people that just wants to keep this town feeling the way it does. I do want more than one traffic light, however. Okay, I would like more lights, not less, but I do want to keep that same feel, that country feel that we have now.
Thank you, Brendan. Would you go next, please?
Sure. First of all, thank you very much for putting this on. It's an important event. It's really... For those of you who don't know me, my name is Brendan Chanel. I am a 5-year resident of Mendon. I live over on Washington Street. So when my wife and I were looking for a place to settle, we came from Littleton, Massachusetts. We really looked for a town that met all of our criteria, including the small town feel, really good school system, and a vibrant community. And I think after living here for the 5 years, we've ticked all the boxes. Mendon has a lot going for it, and things that I didn't see in my previous community, an active civic engagement, town parades, children's events. My kids love it being here, and I've grown to really love this town. So a little bit about me professionally. So I spend my day job as a mechanical engineer, working with challenging projects across multifunctional teams across the globe. And I think that since my kids are a little older and I have time to give back to the community, I want to take some of my business qualifications and experiences and apply them to town. I think, just like with product design, teams work best when a variety of viewpoints are represented, and you have people to challenge each other. And that's what I want to bring to town. If everyone is all aligned, the end product that you get is not as creative or as good as it could be. So I want to help represent a different viewpoint on the board. Speaking of one of the reasons I wanted to run, my father in my hometown was select board chairman for many years. I saw the difference that he could make in town and the positive difference that he could make, and I wanted to do that for Mendon.
Good, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Justin?
I'm next. Good evening. I'm Justin Harshall, also running for the 2-year term. I do want to thank the brothers for putting on this event. I also want to thank Mark Reel for your dedication to this town. I've talked with a lot of residents. A lot of residents had a lot of good things to say about you, so I wish you the best in your endeavors. A little bit about me. I'm originally from Texas. I've spent most of my life here in Massachusetts, in Mendon, just going on my 4th year. My wife and I and our 2 young children, we've known each other for 20 years, married 14, and we've known each other since 2nd grade. So when we decided to settle somewhere, we did choose Mendon. It's got a great country feel. There's a lot of great memories that I've had of Mendon, whether it be the country fair, going to the gift barn at Christmas time, the agricultural base of it all. I really enjoy, I really care about. Our 2 children go to Misco Hill schools, where I think they've done well, especially I do have a son who's on IEP, and they've been able to support him fantastically. So I definitely support the school committee and the school district in what they do. Let's see, what was I going to say? Excuse me. I do own and operate my own business out of Uxbridge, Massachusetts. I donate a lot to the sports there. I've coached there for many years. Coming into Mendon, you know, we definitely had that small town feel, something that we appreciated. We have a small farm ourselves on Blackstone Street, and I'd really like to keep that in town. Mm-hmm. A big reason why I chose to run for the select board was to give back to the community. I also want to preserve Mendon's traditions, Mendon's feel. Growth is upon us. It will be coming, and I think that it needs to be done in a respectable manner. It needs to be done in the correct manner. I look to be on the select board to be able to accompany the other board members as well as the other committees that go before us for the right decisions. There's been a lot of talk before my time with tax overrides. I'd really like to look more into that. Hopefully they never come our way, but if they do, I'd like to find other avenues to avoid those. Watch spending, etc. I think that I'm a positive person. I try to find solutions, not fault. I'm very neutral. I like to see both sides, and I like to go with what works for everybody. There's a lot of left and right out there, and I like to stay neutral. I'm passionate about our community and the vision of the town of Mendon. You know, I want Mendon to remain strong and vibrant, and what we all know it as. Those of us been here a long time. I sympathize with you. I want to say the way that it is. That's it.
Good. Okay, any questions from the audience that is here? Of any of the 3 candidates? Joyce?
And I have the same question. What are your goals? What are your goals?
Why don't we start, Brendan, we'll go right down the line. We'll start with
Sounds good. So, so we talked a lot about preservation up here. So coming from, as the owner of a historic home, I have kind of a unique perspective on what it takes to have a balance between preservation and growth. Like everyone else here, I don't want Mendon to change. We settled here for a specific reason, and it's a labor of love investing in my historic home. What I want to bring to the board is a spirit of collaboration. So I have a lot of professional experience I think is applicable. And every person I met with on the current board and around town, I am 100% convinced they're doing their absolute best as they see it for Mendon and putting Mendon first. So I think we have a lot of big shoes to fill. I want to continue the journey. Just the changes I've seen since I've came to town, specifically the revitalization of the downtown area, the improvement of the police station. I want to maintain that positive trajectory and continue to work and invest in the community. Let's see. The other thing that I want to look at is to do smart, basically smart growth. As everyone else said, the growth is inevitable, but you can immediately tell if you go into a town whether or not they had a plan to deal with the growth before it happens. I want to make sure we're prepared. So those are my top items.
I'd like to say ditto, but I probably should say more. I do agree with everything that, that this gentleman just said. I've been here a long time, so I've actually seen a lot of the changes. My husband and I bought this land in 1983, and then for 20 or 15 years, we dreamed about building our house and had to jump through a lot of hoops to do that. So we've been Mendon taxpayers since 1983. That's a long time. And I've seen a lot of changes and a lot of growth, and a lot of it's been done very, very well. Some of it hasn't been done quite so well. And I think the preservation of the feel of this community is probably the most important thing to me. And the other part of it is not pushing our seniors out because of taxes going up. That's really important to me too. I want to make sure that this isn't just a community of yuppies, because that really doesn't benefit the young people, to not have older people in the community that have the history of Mendon. You know, they're the keepers of Mendon's history. And so I don't want to see that them pushed out because of that. I think that's one of the most important things to me.
Justin?
I don't know what else to say, but more than what you two. I agree with both of you. As far as my goals, my first goal is to do the best I can. I'm new to this town. I've only been here a few years. I'm even new to town business. As I've said to others before, I wish that I had the right educators in front of us. Brendan and I even spoke about it a little bit, just to learn the town business and be able to do it right. I agree with preservation. I agree with elders, taxes, all of our concerns I agree with. I think that as a 5-member board, if we can all work together and come to the right terms that benefits the town and its residents, that's what I'm for.
Great, I see, yes, sir.
27 Providence Street. So thank you all, by the way, thank you all, by the way, all the candidates that have come here today and volunteer your time. I guess my question is first, do you see the town by going from 3 to 5 as not just an opportunity to get more diverse ideas and voices being heard, but really what the town is looking for is just that, diversity and more ideas and what have you. And although I hear a lot of collaboration, and I think that's very important, what have you, but there's some strong voices in town today. And my question is are you prepared to actually stand behind your ideas and actually be allowed a voice to make them known and really look at what the town is looking for why we went from 3 to 5? Thank you.
Good, I'm going to ask the candidates to make a quick remark on that question. So I'm going to start with you, then, please.
I'm a very independent thinker, so I'm going to go the way that I think is the right way and represent what I think is the best thing to do, regardless. I don't mind, I like to collaborate, but I don't mind if people are unhappy with me or disagree with me. That's okay with me. So no, I don't think I'm gonna have a problem standing up with my own viewpoint and representing what I think is an important viewpoint for the board. And it probably won't be the same as everybody else's. I mean, demographically, we're a little different here to begin with.
Justin?
I would say, I'm glad you asked that question. I've asked many residents and I've gotten both sides. Some would really like it to remain a 3-member board. Some are appreciative of a 5 because of the adversity. I can tell you I got thick skin. I can take criticism, just like you had said. I would agree to what's best for the town, what's best for the residents. I would stick to my plan if I felt that it was in the best interest, that it was the right plan and it was the right idea or move for the town.
I think we have, anybody else in the audience?
I'd like to comment.
Brendan, want to?
Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot all about you. I just wanted to check to see if you were awake.
I'm still here. But yeah, just to add on to what the last 2 speakers said, it's not always popular to do the right thing, but it's very clear within the first 5 or 10 minutes of hearing about an issue what the right thing is. You have to be true to yourself. And when I was a young kid watching my father do this job, he went through a lot of trouble in town sometimes because of his decisions, but he stuck to his guns. I want to do the same thing. But I'll circle back to the last thing. I've met with people I don't necessarily agree with in this journey, and I'm convinced that they all are working towards the best interests of Mendon at heart, and I think we can work with that even if we don't agree.
Good, thank you. Mark?
Mark Reel, 4 Lowell Drive. We're hearing a lot about goals, which I think is a perfect question to ask about goals. And you've identified some broad challenges in terms of maintaining the town's character, but I'd like to hear from each of you, and I wish I had thought of this question for the previous participants, but identify the largest challenge you see for Mendon and give some ideas of how you're going to address that challenge.
Brendan, why don't you go first since I ignored you the last round?
Sure. So one of the largest challenges, and to circle back to the topic around the school budget, are basically the continuing 2.5 budget overrides. It's not necessarily a sustainable solution. To keep basically squeezing the people that live in town. However, to her point, the schools bring a lot of value. I know that when we were looking for a place to live, school choice and vibrant schools are hugely important to keep a town growing and vital. So I would like to work in advance and get the two budgets out of their silos and work in advance to try to come to a collaborative solution before it becomes an adversarial process.
Diana?
It's such a broad question and so many places to go. You know, in talking to people, one of the concerns that I've heard from people is that they don't want our community to become Wayland. And if you know Wayland, you know what I'm talking about. So you don't know Wayland. Okay, so Wayland is a small community like us. It's got some money, and it's on the outskirts of the Framingham area. And it used to be a one-horse town, and now it's kind of a ritzy, expensive town that has high taxes, and people can't afford to live there once their kids get out of the schools. And I don't want to see that happen in Mendon. And that's kind of the, you know, the dichotomy here. You know, you want your town to grow, you want to have great schools, but there's a cost to that. And so keeping that, the community feel that we have right now, for me is really important. And I don't want to see us become Wayland. I'd like Mendon to remain unique. It's very unique in this area. There's no other town around us that's quite like Mendon with that farm feel to it. So I think for me, that's probably one of the most important things. I think we could easily become Wayland, and what happens in Wayland is once your kids are through the schools, you leave the town, you sell out, you go somewhere where the taxes aren't so high. I'd like to live here my whole life. I'd like my grandchildren to grow up in this community. So I think that's one of the most important things to me, and one of the things that I'm going to focus on.
Good, thank you. Justin?
I think one of the struggles is community involvement. There's a lot of people I've talked to where, whether it's a club, a proposed building, there's growth upon us, and it's been voted for a certain district to go in a certain place. And when someone proposes to do something there, everyone's up in arms about it. I would really like to encourage more residents attend meetings, vote, make your voice heard. I think it's a huge thing that I've run into. There's a lot of displeasure with certain things with certain residents, and I think, and they have said to me, no, I didn't vote, I didn't go there. So put your hand up, get before the town. If you don't like it, talk to a select board member, you know, go to the meetings and make yourself heard. That, I think, is something that will definitely benefit Mendon, is having more involvement.
Thank you. We have a hand up.
Mr. Howe.
Mr. Howe.
Thank you very much. This is a question for Justin. I received a brochure from yourself in the mail, and one of your highlighted comments was neutral yet positive toward respectable growth. And I was wondering if you could elaborate on that statement and tell me what it means.
Yeah, what that means is growth is upon us. I think every participant has spoke about that. And I think that if it's done in the best way for the town, I don't want Mendon to become like another town or a town that we're displeased with. I'm happy to sit on the board and to listen to what's being proposed and make sure that it's the right fit and down the right avenue that fits Mendon, its residents. I don't want Mendon to lose its small town or country feel. I'm huge on agriculture. Personally, I love seeing fields, I love seeing farms. Reality, there is development ahead at some point, and I would like to see that done in a respectable way.
So, could you tell me what a respectable way means?
I would say a respectable way would, I don't want it to, I think I would try to do the best I could not to allow, or I shouldn't say allow, but I wouldn't want to see us become an overrun town that would kind of outgrow itself.
Okay, I'm not sure I understand what that means, but that's okay. Thank you for your comment.
Thank you.
Any of the two candidates want to comment on what Justin commented on?
No.
If not, that's fine. Do we have another? Mark, just because you're leaving the chair, you got to admit. Wait, do we have anybody else?
Sorry, you're on the hot seat.
Is he ready?
Oh, so they can't?
Mark Reel,
Okay,
four-wheel
so-
drive.
okay, go ahead.
What? No, I can't ask? My question is pretty easy, I think. One project we've kind of talked about recently was the idea of building a new senior center next year as a start time, and I was just curious to hear each of your opinions on that project.
Don, you want to go first?
Sure. So I think investing in seniors and people on fixed incomes is hugely important, especially after the pandemic when they were basically disproportionately affected. I know that the town has secured land for this project. It kind of is a continuation of the revitalization of the downtown area. It's a next logical step, and I fully support it.
I would say that I support it. I don't know enough about the numbers yet to make a final determination, but I'm definitely in support of
Good.
it.
Justin?
I think I would be in support of it. I know the numbers are up there. It is pricey. If it's part of what will help our elders in the senior center, I would definitely support it. I guess I would want to just follow through with a lot more of what's being proposed and what it's going to do and how it's going to help.
We have some phone.
We do have 3 individuals.
Go ahead, Kathy.
I have a question about economic development and growth. I would be interested to know how you, as a select board member, see some of the shortcomings of our economic growth and development up to this point, and how you would be able to affect. Nobody at home can. I forgot what I said. Thanks, Dan. Thanks, Kevin. My question is in regards to economic development and growth. We are maybe a little bit behind the 8 ball in making this surge that we need to have in order to support, our tax base. Where do you see the shortcomings up until this point? And how do you think you might, as a select board, be able to affect positive change in economic growth and development?
Tony, would you go first?
Sure. I think one of the things that we really need more of is businesses in the town. We need to do it smart, we need to do it right, but we need more business tax base in this community. So how would I affect that? I mean, I think that I'd just be an advocate for it. I think we can grow and we can retain what we have. It's not easy, but we can do it. But I think definitely businesses are going to make the difference.
Brandon, would you like to go next?
Sure. So a few topics here. First is, as a member of the select board, you do have some control, or you can go to the taxpayers for permission, basically, to dispense town-owned property. So being strategic with town-owned property and whether or not we want to keep it for future use or for releasing to a potential business development, that's something you can be strategic about. The other thing that I really would like to see is a thorough review of the bylaws. So if there's any particular issue with the bylaws that you see, rather than trying to gloss over it or not apply it, put it to the voters and get it changed and updated so that it's compatible with the next wave of growth that's coming in.
Justin?
Both good points. I would agree with. I think we have a very small percentage of commercial tax base, and to try to rebuild a senior center, get a new campus, improve our schools on a residential budget can be a struggle. It can be very difficult. I think that growth on a commercial end would be beneficial to the town. I wouldn't necessarily want to see all of Route 16 be nothing but businesses, but I would encourage other commercial development in town to help our tax base.
Good. Well, you're pointing, so what does that mean?
One more.
Jim Brow, 8 Carpenter Hill Road. I had a question, Justin. In your opening statement, you made a comment that you thought there were some alternatives to the override, and that you could explore those alternatives. Overrides are kind of a fact of life in Massachusetts. So the alternative would be to cut school budgets, cut the police. What is the alternative to an override when we get to that point?
Sure. I wouldn't say cut any budgets. I certainly wouldn't want to do that. What I would want to do is look at spending across the board in every avenue. I would like to see if there was anything that maybe we could reduce on or not overspend on. I would watch our budgets between our different departments and hopefully avoid a tax override. I know it happens a lot, especially here in Massachusetts, but I would just do the best I could to investigate and see where we could win to avoid it.
Okay, we got a couple of folks been waiting on phone. So could I ask the last four digits, 8218? Bingo, it's right.
Yeah, they're gonna have to unmute them.
They need to dial *6 to unmute themselves.
You have to dial *6 to unmute yourself, please.
That's if they have a question.
That's if they have a question. Okay.
I don't think unless those people express an interest to talk, I don't think they have their hands up right now.
Yeah, I don't know why what's making you think they have questions?
I wasn't sure if they had the ability to do a hand raise.
Oh, no, they would just
audio only.
Right.
Right.
So we'll just move on maybe till we get stoned or whatever? They'll be boycotting outside. Okay, any other questions of the three candidates? Thank you so very much, guys, and I wish you well. Thank you. The next on the ballot would be Select Board, 1 year, Michael Goddard, and Mike is not here. Board of Health, 3 years, Andy Fisk is not here. Board of Assessors, Kenny O'Brien is not here. Park Commissioners, A.J. Byrne. A.J., do you want to say a couple of words? Give him the microphone, we'll be here till 10.
No. A.J. Byrne. I actually, to be honest with you, I wasn't going to run. I was not going to run. You asked me if I was going to run. And I said no, but no one else decided to run. So kind of just a part of who I am is I did not want to leave the Parks Department with two people, two commissioners, and a huge part of my life is volunteering, especially for Mendon. I absolutely love this town, always have. I put my heart and soul into this town. So my wife's not happy with me, but I decided to run for a 6th term. The other thing that was really important to me was, I have to say also, Dan Byer, who's an absolute gem for Mendon. If you don't know Dan, you should get to know Dan. I really, really enjoy working with him and Tom Bellingham, the other Parks Commissioner. I absolutely am enjoying it a lot more than I thought I would. So this will be my 6th term. And the one thing that's really important to me is the beach project. People that I've known for a long time knew that when I moved to Mendon in, I think, '64, we lived at the beach for that summer. So I go back a long way. So I've been around a long time. My parents were very involved with the town, and so I'm running again, and I think I'll get your vote, so thank you.
Thank you, Jay. Next on your ballot, you'll see a water commissioner for 2 years, but I'm going to miss them. Be Kevin Redden for 3 years. Kevin, you want to come up? Yep. 2 minutes, Kevin.
Probably the best way to introduce myself to people who don't know me is this month I'm beginning my 39th consecutive year of serving on elected or appointed boards and commissions. I'm running unopposed for my 3rd consecutive 3-year term on the Water Board, which when done, because I served a year earlier, will give me 10 years. I'm going on the record making a huge campaign promise. It's my last term on the Water Board. I'm getting to the point where I want to retire. Nobody wanted me to run except my colleagues on the Water Board, and that enough convinced me to run because with the And I'm going to sing the praises of Dan as well, with Dan as our clerk, Dan Byer, with Vin Roy joining the board last year, who actually runs the Sudbury water system, and Alan Kent, our chairman. We've got a really good team, and we're in the middle of a lot of projects. Just for those who have long memories, I used to sit and rail at town meetings when the water board would come and ask the town, everybody not on the water system, to pay for water projects. And I'm very pleased that by the end of my first term on the water board, we got the enterprise fund established. So guess what, folks? Only the users are paying for the water system, and we're running a surplus to pay for things in the future. That's great news. That was a huge accomplishment. The other thing we're doing, to those who talk about the need for water in the town, part of our mission, because of our terms of buying water from Hopedale, is we're in a constant search to do that. So we know better than anybody else the fact that no other town in the area is going to give us water, or what it would cost to do that. We're also, through the hard work of Selectman Raleigh and Representative Murray, our state rep, we have a grant right now where we have an ongoing study to look at the ability to find more water sources in the town or update the costs of bringing water to the town. So I'm just hoping to finish that out. But I will just leave you, because I know Dick knows I like to talk, with a funny story. Why did I run again 6 years ago to the water board? It's really simple. I bought a house that's on the system. They needed to put in a new water meter. They put in a new water meter. I couldn't get the town to give me a bill for the water meter. So imagine that. You have somebody who wants to pay the town money and can't get the town to charge him. That alone propelled me to run, saying, how much other money is the town not getting if I come in once a week with a checkbook and nobody will tell me what I owe or give me a bill? Okay, it took me getting on the board to get the bill and paying the bill. I thought that was absurd. Everybody gets billed now. We rejiggered the water rates so people are paying their fair share. That businesses that are only connected to the fire line, that is, the only thing they'll ever use water for is if their sprinklers goes off, they're paying us minimum fees to do that. We're really trying hard to make the system better and better and better, and I just want to stay part of that effort until basically I get too old and say, you know what, it's time for younger blood to take over. And nobody else ran, so I did. But thank you all, and I'd appreciate your vote.
Anybody got any questions of Kevin if you want free water?
Oh, wait a minute, Dick. I have my donation for you.
Yeah, thank you.
Kevin, hi, thanks. Coleman Nikon, 27 Providence Street. I did have a question, actually, as it relates to the water, and I have talked to a couple of people in town. I understand the power station down in Blackstone was actually possible here to be built in Mendon, provided we had the water. So I understand that there might be a Blackstone connection to water. I know we've talked about different areas like 140 or 16, but I'm curious if there's been any discussion as far as gaining, access to water from south of us.
Candidly, there have been discussions with every area town, some of which I really can't make public because they might jeopardize them. And some of them we're hoping, with the availability of a large amount of ARPA federal money that the town has sitting, and basically about the only thing the town under the criteria can spend it on is water or sewer expansion. We're hoping with this water study to get good hard concrete costs on what it would do to make those connections, which are important. We thought we had a deal with Bellingham several years ago that got blown out of the water that actually would have provided us with a ton more water at far less cost. If you don't know, Hopedale is charging us the highest rate they can charge. So if you live on Route 16 and are on the part where the wells got contaminated and Hopedale is serving you, those people are paying a lower rate than the people on Blue Road in the 140 area because Hopedale bills them directly. So it's kind of absurd, but we have to support a small system. It's really a great dilemma for us because we have 153 customers. We don't have the economies of scale. We can't expand to get the economies of scale and pricing without getting more water sources. So we're hoping this study does that. Have we looked at Blackstone? Yes. I don't want to go beyond that right now because there are things, but we also need to know the cost of bringing it up and whether pumping stations are needed and what is. I mean, quite honestly, as much as I'd like to bring it to the whole town if we could, the town's goals right now really would involve getting it on a 140 where we're turning away commercial development. We've seen commercial development not go through because of lack of water, and on 16. If you get water up 16 and 140, believe it or not, it's very easy to extend it through town-owned property to the majority of the town. I will though point out though, for those talking about smart growth, the whole reason Mendon has the lot size that it has today is in the late 80s, the lot sizes were expanded due to the lack of water and sewer and to protect people's wells and septic systems. So the dilemma was also, you know, the town turned down, by the way, bringing water and sewer in the 60s to the town to protect the rural character. So we haven't had the 5,000 and 10,000 square foot lots like you see in Mendon or more urban areas. But I also work full-time in the town of Holliston, which does have water but no sewer, and they face the same problem. They can't get business in because they don't have sewer. They've got the water. So it's a balance of that. I mean, fortunately with this study and a very collaborative effort with all the boards, and I know we've had meetings, the water board with, we've invited selectmen, finance committee, planning board, the fire chief in the past, and we hope to do that again in the future. And I should say the economic development committee as well, to make sure that whatever we do, everybody's involved and do that. I'm hoping by the time my term is up, we might actually have more water from a more reliable and economic source. That's a goal. That's another reason why I wanted to do it. I'd like to see that. And the other thing is, I'm a water customer.
Sorry, the follow-up question was, is actually, do we have a water issue, actually, to your point, or do we actually have a sewer opportunity or issue? Meaning, and that's impacting our ability to have businesses. If we had more sewerage, again, connecting to, say, the south, you know.
Well, oddly enough, the town lacks the legal mechanism to oversee sewers on a day-to-day basis because we have a state-authorized water commission. We don't have a sewer commission or a water and sewer commission. We did bring forward an article to the powers that be about 2 years ago to wind its way through the legislature to name us a water and sewer commission. When people brought up that idea, we were told it was premature. It takes about 2 years for a home rule bill to get through the legislature these days. I wish it had gone through then. We're ready to bring it. You know, I have the wording all done. It was vetted by legal. We do it. Yeah, you have both. And the comments I keep hearing from people are, well, if you're bringing water, it makes sense to bring sewer. However, then you have to have a place to output the sewage to. And just to give you an idea of the laws involved, you go to Uxbridge, you go to Hopedale, they both took federal money to build their sewer treatment plants. They have stubs by law. The stubs are pointing on 16 towards us. However, when you do an intermunicipal agreement, basically the town hooking up, which would be us, whether it's water or sewer, is responsible for building all the plumbing to get there and all the plumbing to get back. So if that's a water pumping station or sewer pumping station, and those towns have the right, like Hopedale is doing with water, to charge us the highest rate possible. They have to have the capacity. If they need to build onto the capacity, you have to pay for it. Right now, every Mendon 153 water users are paying $50 a quarter that goes right back to the town of Hopedale to pay for their well filtration system. That's our share of it. They bill us. Do Hopedale people pay $50 a quarter? I don't know, but I'm going to guess no.
I mean, we need that resource to
We do.
Okay.
The restaurants would love sewer, and basically, even if for fire line, I mean, Hopedale will not let us add even a fire line these days to a business that wants to come here. And I don't want to get into the politics of one that's been proposed, but I mean, that building got turned down for just connecting for fire system, even though Hopedale would be getting $5,000 a year for perpetuity if there was never a fire, and we'd get a connection fee and maybe $50 a quarter.
Kevin, I want to thank you. I think that battering back and forth was very informative to the citizens because a lot of us didn't know or understand that.
Yeah.
And I thank you. Thank you, Kevin. Appreciate it. Oh, hey. The next, on your ballot, you're going to see Water Commissioner for 2 years. That'll be Vincent Roy, and I don't believe Vincent is here. Taft Public Library, we have 2 young ladies running for a 3-year unopposed. So I'm going to ask them both to come up here. That would be Lisa Mitchell, Michael, and Gabriella Porcello. Please. And Lisa, why don't you introduce yourself first, and then we'll move along, okay?
Okay. So my name is Lisa Michael. I live on Pleasant Street. I've been here for about 10 years. I have 2 children in the school system. I have been a member of the Friends of the Taft Public Library since 2015, when they were right next door, when the library was next door. I was part of that group that raised a lot of money to try to help fund the relocation and all the new furniture and such that's at the new library. Since they've moved over there, we do a lot of work with programming and fundraising, generally just supporting the library staff. And so now I've been there for quite a while. I just feel like it's time to move into a different role, which is why I'm running for trustee.
Great.
Hi, for those of you who don't know me, I am Gabrielle Porcello from Bellingham Street, and I too have been on the Friends of the Library since 2015. Working with Lisa, we were recruited at the same time, you might want to say. What excited me about it was knowing that we were in the process of building a new library and I wanted to be involved. My kids were younger at the time than now. I have a sophomore in high school and a freshman in college, but they both went through the school system. My husband and I have lived here for 22 years. And I've enjoyed thoroughly my involvement with the Friends of the Library in helping to raise the money for the relocation, as well as continue to raise money for programs and other growth. So one of my goals, I would think, as a trustee member, would be to help the library grow with the rest of the growth that's happening in town, because I think that's very important. We did spend a lot of money in building a new library, and it's beautiful, but there's a lot of opportunity there that we can still grow with the town. So I'm very excited to, like Lisa, take the next step and move on. So with that being said, there are some seats open on the board of the Friends of the Library if anybody's interested, because we'll still be involved in the Friends as much as we can, but we will not sit on the board any longer. So we're both very excited to become trustees and continue that involvement with the library.
Thank you so much. Don't leave yet. Anybody have any questions about the future of the library or these 2 candidates? Jane, you need to, so the folks at home can hear us.
Jane Lowell, 40 Millville Street. I use the library all the time, and I'm just wondering what is going to happen to what used to be the rectory. I think it was very short-sighted, myself, not to at least be able to connect the 2 of them, so ultimately that building could have been used for expansion.
Is that something you girls can?
So I can certainly speak to it. My opinion is, Lisa and I think both are on the same page. We would love to see that become part of the library. However, I don't think it's necessarily a trustee decision. It's more of a select board and town decision as a whole, and a budget decision. But sure, the space would be utilized, whether, I don't know, I think there's been studies done, which I'm not 100% familiar with, but there has been studies done. It may or may not be feasible to use the existing building, but we would love to do something with it, and if the existing building can't be used, maybe there's something else we can come up with as a community to utilize the space, because it's just sitting there dormant. We are able to utilize the garage for our book sale, which we love, but it would be nice to be able to utilize the rest of the building or space for library use or other town use, community use.
Lisa, do you want to make any comment?
I agree with what Gay said for the most part. It is my understanding that the building actually belongs to the town.
Correct.
Versus the library. So the library doesn't necessarily have a say in what happens. That's my understanding. I'm not sure if that's correct.
I think
but
Jane brought up a very interesting question because it's been on the minds of an awful lot of people
It has.
since that was done. Anyway, anybody have any other questions of our two candidates? Well, thank you so much, and thank you for the programs you guys are doing for the kids. Thank you. Next on the ballot would be a 3-year term, a vote for one, the Mendon Upton Regional School Committee. Kerry Lawrence, who is a candidate for re-election, and Dara Landers. Dara? And then we'll have you go first.
Okay. Thank you. I first want to thank the brothers for hosting this event. I very much appreciate the opportunity to meet and listen to a lot of the candidates talk. I think it's an important message to send to the town as we talk about collaboration in terms of building budgets and moving this town forward, that we're all here together to have this conversation, particularly with the collaboration. My name is Kerry Lawrence. I've been a resident of Mendon for 10 years now. I have 3 children, all of whom have come through the Mendon Upton school system. My oldest is now a sophomore in college, and then I have 2 girls who are still at the regional high school. I have been involved with the schools since pretty much the day we moved into town, starting with being a class mom in the kindergarten class at Clough. Became involved in town politics with some of the earlier override movements and the Mendon 360 committee, and then was on the school council at Misco Hill Middle School for 3 years prior to running for school committee. I was motivated to run for school committee because of my concern for the social emotional development for students in our community, and because I'd had positive experiences with the school district, and I have some expertise in social emotional learning, I really wanted to lend some of my skills to moving our district forward and meeting some of these needs for our students. I've been on this school committee now for 3 years. In my 3 years, I've served on the superintendent evaluation subcommittee. I've been on the negotiations subcommittee and the Golden Apple subcommittee. And for the last year, I've served as the chairperson of the school committee. Professionally, I'm a school psychologist. I've been practicing for almost 25 years and have experience working in public schools from kindergarten through 12th grade. This was another one of the reasons why I wanted to get involved with the school committee, because of the expertise that I have in working with school systems, and thought that it might be a helpful lens to add to this particular committee. With my children, I also have experience with a diversity of educational experiences. I have some of my kids who have been more on the gifted side of learning. I also have a child on a 504 plan and a child on an IEP, so I've had to navigate the system as both a parent and professional from many sides, and have found Mendon Upton to be very responsive to my children's needs, and I'm very appreciative of the district for what they've been able to do for my children. I'm an advocate for teachers. I very much respect the professionals who work for our community, and appreciate the sacrifices that they make for our kids. Part of the reason I decided to run for re-election is because I feel like my 3 years were kidnapped by the pandemic. There were things I was hoping to achieve as part of the school committee, some of those being increased transparency and communication within the school district, as well as improving access to social emotional supports for our students. And a lot of that work had to take a back seat to completely reinventing education through a pandemic. Some of the silver lining to the pandemic, I feel, for our work as a school committee in the schools is it really pushed us to be creative in how we teach students and reach families. I have very much appreciated the fact that Zoom meetings have become part of our life because I believe it increases accessibility and equity in all of these processes that we have. It increases transparency and allows for better participation. If I were to be reelected, greater participation is one of the goals that I would have. We, as much as we may have struggled with navigating some very difficult topics over the course of the last 3 years, we've very much appreciated the increased community involvement and interest in what was going on in the school district. And I feel like that is absolutely essential in moving our school district forward, is having that level of participation. I also would like to continue some of the work that's happened over the last year with cross-collaboration with other town committees, particularly around the budget, and would love to be able to be a part of seeing that move forward for the next 3 years.
Thank you very much. Dara?
Hi, I'm Dara Landers. I live at 5 Dudley Road in Mendon. Thanks everyone who came out tonight, took time out of their busy schedule, and everyone virtually. I really appreciate it. And thank you for inviting me to candidate night. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Dara Landers. I'm originally from Holliston. I was fortunate enough to graduate from the Holliston public school system. After high school, I obtained my bachelor's in business, and after working in finance for a few years, decided to follow my passion and go back to school for nursing. I've been a nurse for the last 10 years. I personally like to consider myself a lifelong learner. I don't like complacency, so naturally, as my children are matriculating into the Mendon school system, I'm inclined to get involved in their future. My oldest is in first grade at Clough. My middle will be at pre-K in the fall, and I have a 2-year-old daughter. My husband and I moved to Mendon in 2018. We've had a wonderful experience here. We're very happy, and so are our kids. My husband's also very active in coaching in the Mendon Upton youth sports, and we're really growing to love our community here. So why am I running for school committee? Well, for most of 2020 and 2021, I was a frustrated parent. I worked in the hospital during the pandemic. I had a newborn, and I went to kindergarten online with my oldest son. And like many other parents can probably identify with, I felt like I wasn't being heard. So after some careful thought, I decided that I wanted to run to be a voice for the district's parents and the children. I decided to run at the end of February, and I've been trying to learn all that I can in these past 2 months. Although I don't have any school committee experience, and 2 months is not an adequate amount of time for me to learn everything, I do have the passion and the motivation and the drive needed to be a successful school committee member. I think that's why I'm here tonight. It's impossible for the candidates to know all the ins and outs of school committee without actually being on the board, but I'm paying attention to what the parents are saying, and I do know that the school committee is supposed to maintain a two-way communication with the citizens of the community and the public, and is to be kept informed of the progress and the problems of the school district. So, just a couple of personal goals I have as a school committee candidate. The number one goal I have is to find the magic answer to boost parent and community involvement. Kind of like what Carrie said. Bring a fresh perspective to the committee, provide elementary school representation. My kids are in Clough, and unfortunately I don't know what's going on in the other two schools, but I will find out. I want to help develop policies that ensure students will thrive in their school environments, and I want to make sure every dollar spent is directly linked to children's education and growth. But I also want to take a minute to thank and commend the current school committee board, because it was not an easy job, especially during a pandemic. It's an unpaid volunteer position, and just as a reminder, most of the school committee members ran unopposed, so they really do care about our children, and I really respect that. I'm not running because I think I can do a better job. I'm running because I care and I want to help. So I thank everyone, and please consider voting for me on May 17th.
Well, thank you both. Anybody, thank you both. Anybody have any, oh, by the way, I meant to make a comment, house cleaning rules, please all cell phones off, please.
Anybody have any questions of, yes, Mark?
Mark Rail, 4 Little Drive. So something we talk a lot about is collaboration between town needs and school needs, right? We all have our important things on our lists, and we do what we can to support all of our constituents. So I guess my question is, would you support an override for the senior center before another school override?
Oh, you're getting your last shots in, huh, buddy? Wow. You got it. I think it's great. Dara, would you go first? Dara,
Sure.
please?
That's a really good question, obviously judging from the audience's feedback. I have small children. I can't make a decision right now. I would obviously have to do all the research, weigh the pros and cons, but I cannot give you an answer on that right now. But I hope it never gets to be to that point. Without doing my own due diligence and research, which I will do and make an educated decision.
Cool.
And I'd have to say I'd be open to having the conversation. I think it's without having more detail or seeing it right in front of you. I think that's a decision that's difficult to make, but I would definitely be open to the discussion. I do feel like this needs to be a collaborative process in developing the budgets between, the school is part of the town. I have always been uncomfortable with the idea of the school budget versus the town budget. It is one budget, and we do need to take into account the needs of the town and the school, which means, I think, having a wider lens on the impact that decisions in one area have on others and how to compromise between those needs.
Any other? Kevin?
Kevin, go ahead. I'll take it up.
Thank you. One of the things I think that annoys most of the people in town is when an override is voted down and the school committee immediately comes back with either the same number or a slightly smaller number, and in my view, shoves it down our throat. So I'm going to ask both of you, would you take the pledge to listen to the voters of Mendon when they say no and go back to the committee and say, I'm sorry, my people who voted me here said no, so it's dead? That's my question. Would you take that pledge publicly not to do that?
Sitting school committee person?
I feel a little targeted by that question, possibly. I wouldn't take that pledge right now because I think every time those circumstances come to light, there are different situations. I believe that we came back for the override because we wanted another shot at communicating with the community how important what we were asking for was. We felt we needed the extra time to clarify the budget requests. We did a lot of, we felt like we did a lot in terms of increasing transparency, really trying to bring light to all of the different budget issues that the school district was having. And that was why we came back with the same number. Part of it was to really try and make a point that we felt that these asks were necessary for the health and the survival of the quality of our school district. I feel like it's important for folks to know. I am not one of the senior members of our community, but I am a single mother of 3 children with a child in college and another one on the way who works as a public school employee. I am one of the Mendon town members who is close to having tax increases push me out of the town. I take these decisions very, very seriously. And I can tell you from my personal standpoint, when I looked at what the school was asking for, knowing it would impact my bottom line, I felt it was important enough to bring back to the taxpayers and the townspeople at the same number.
Thank you. Dara?
If elected to school committee, I hope to be a voice of the parents of the community. That's my #1 goal here. So I can't speak to the past. I can only speak to the future. And I will try to listen to all sides and all points of view, do all my research, and get all the necessary information in order to do what's best for the school and the town. Thanks.
Good. Thank you. Any other questions? We're going to limit the questions unless it's something new.
Yeah, it's something new. And it actually does go to the select people who are interested in the candidates. So we have a tax base where it almost appears that the budgets are created based on the percentage of the past. So school committee, school district gets about 50%, police gets about 30. I want to say the fire gets about 15%. And that seems to be the way we create the budgets. Now, I know this is not a question for you, but how do we change that? And what I'm saying that is that we seem to be growing positions as we raise money. So if we end up having $1 million extra, that number might be a little high, but it seems they call it level funding of sorts, where the school gets 50% and you go on down the line. And I don't pose this question to you, but more to the townspeople as well as the candidates. How do we change that? How do we look at our budgets in a more thorough way, where we're actually doing a bottom-up approach, and we do it fiscally responsibly? I know we talked a lot about that. A lot of the candidates said they were fiscally responsible, and me as a resident, I'll be looking for that in the future. Thank you.
So that's more of a comment.
It is, but thank you very much.
But thank you.
Yeah,
No, we
appreciate
thank you.
that, sir.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
If I could actually comment on that, though, and I think that's part of the reason why so many of us are talking about collaborative work between the committees. But I know a goal, particularly in the school committee, at least in my time there, has been working on developing a 5-year plan in terms of our budget, so that there's a little bit more predictability in terms of understanding what our needs are going to be for the future and how we can plan for that in a way that's fiscally responsible. So those are the kinds of things that I know we're thinking about in terms of planning for growth, planning for need, planning for infrastructure repair, and doing those things together as a town and a school district.
Jared, do you want to comment on that at all? Okay, fine. You have a question up back?
Yeah, I really appreciate an incumbent being here and coming back for another term on the school board. That's incredible. I guess I want to understand the process of the school budget is so incredibly complex, and there's an incredible lack of understanding of the process of the school budget, of why we come back and vote over and over again. Can you both talk to how you understand that process and how you'll communicate that process to clearly, oftentimes, residents that don't seem to really understand that this is all dictated by the state on how we have to get to our school budget?
You want to?
I feel very similar looking over the budget. It's really hard to see where some of the funds are allocated. I don't know if it's just if school committee has more information in regards to the budget and where the money is spent, like more particularly. But I feel the same way, and I also would like more transparency and more information. And even though I've only been looking at the school budget for the last month or so, I also have concerns that I really just need more clarification on. I'm not really sure I have anything else to say about that.
That's fine. All right.
And I've had 3 years on the committee, and the budget is still something that I'm learning to understand. It's an incredibly complex piece of what the school committee is responsible for, and I'm not even going to pretend to understand it as well as many of my fellow committee members. And I know we rely very, very heavily on Jay Beyer to explain a lot of those things to those of us who may not be as deep into the weeds on a lot of these budget line items as others are. However, I do think that is an area that we need to continue to grow as a school committee and as a school district, is explaining the budget in a way that makes it more easily digestible. We need like the school budget for dummies version. I think that the district has made a lot of progress in this particularly over the last year. If anyone was watching some of our budget presentations over these last couple of months, the various parts of the district have come forth with their budget proposals with great visuals and explanations of what they need, where their strengths are, where their weaknesses are, where they need target investments, and why. When it comes down to truly understanding the budget, I believe that all of the information is there to the public. What you see is what I see. What I have access to on the committee are multiple opportunities to ask questions and to have people with the expertise to explain to me what each of those line item means. If there's a challenge, if there's a big challenge to understanding the budget, I think it is that a lot of those line items are taken directly from state and local line items. So I would read them and I don't necessarily know what they mean, which I think leads a lot of people to think that we're trying to hide things, and it's really not the issue. It's just that's what that line item is called. And if you participate in the budget process, if you come to the school committee meetings and ask questions, if you go to the budget subcommittee meetings and ask those questions, they're questions that can be answered clearly. So it is an incredibly complex process, and I think that is an area where I would love to see some growth, is how do we explain a very, very complex process down into a couple of bullet points so that we can really communicate what we need and why we need it and why it is important enough that we come back for these overrides.
Thank you. There's a question down front. Jonathan, please.
Lonnie Tanier, 60C North Ave. Obviously, in national headline news, we hear a lot about critical race theory and our being brought into the classroom. Just wondering if you could give your thoughts on how you see that fitting in or not fitting in.
So curriculum is not under the responsibility of the school committee. That falls to the superintendent and to the educators in the district. So I'm not sure how it's relevant to what the school committee does. However, I will say that critical race theory is, it's a thesis level concept for legal scholars and is not something that's being taught in public schools. I think that just in my conversations with folks, I think that there's some confusion between the idea of us talking about critical race theory and the education that teachers are receiving through their professional development on equity and diversity. And I want to be clear in speaking that equity and diversity is a very important topic for our teachers to be educated on and to impart to our students, because we are educating them to be 21st century learners. And these are skills that kids are going to have to take into the workforce. They need to work cross-culturally. They need to work with folks with different strengths and weaknesses, and they need to do it in a respectful manner in order to conduct the business of the future.
Thank you. Dara?
Thank you for that question. I think that is a topic that's on a lot of parents' mind. We're seeing it in the news and everywhere, and there's a lot of outrage as we are in the middle of a culture war. I think it's really important to engage parents and see how they're feeling. If they have direct concerns, the school committee should be listening to them about the curriculum and what they have the problems with. And if I'm elected, I will be open to listening to parents' concerns about the curriculum, because I think that's really important. I also think that I have talked to a few parents, and they want more transparency. They want to know what's being taught in the class, and when they are reaching barriers, they want to know why they can't see what's going on. And so I want to be able to listen to the parents and hear their concerns. I think that's really important.
Thank you both. Any other questions from the audience? Mark?
Just one.
Well, first of all, I'd like to give the young lady who hasn't had a chance yet, please.
Excuse me. Lisa Liu, 34 Vincent Road. We've heard a lot of talk about budget. Other than the budget, what do you feel is the biggest challenge facing the school district?
Good question, thank you. I think there's a lot of, I don't just have one challenge, I have a bunch of little challenges. I think we're kind of facing like a mental health issue with our students. I think the whole masking, learning from home, the condition of our middle school. I think that there's a lot of issues going on here, but I do think that the mental health of our students is number one, and we really need to find out why our kids are so sad, why they feel so lonely. We really need to spend more resources on type of things like that to ensure that our kids are happy and they feel safe in school. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. And I would absolutely agree that the social and emotional health of our students is a top priority and a challenge for educating our students at this time. It was the reason I ran for school committee 3 years ago. It's another one of the drivers for me wanting to run again. I do think that the district has made good progress in addressing the social emotional learning needs of our students, particularly over the last year. It was part of the reason why we did push for the additional positions when we came to the towns with our last budget override. Some of those positions funded have helped support the creation of a transition support program at the high school that's allowed students to return from mental health hospitalizations as well as physical health hospitalizations, so they're able to transition back into our community in a way that's healthy and appropriate and supports their emotional adjustment. I also feel like another challenge for our community is communication. I think that's probably going to be a goal for our school district every year for the foreseeable future, because I think we can always be better communicators. We need to listen to our parents, we need to listen to our educators, and we need to do that in a way that's respectful. And I would also love to see greater community involvement in what happens at the school. I think we've seen some powerful change in our schools because of motivated and energetic parent groups. I think about the middle school and the MISCO Cares community and all of the very positive impacts they've had at that middle school, which needs a little bit of love and tenderness. So if we could get some more citizens who are really motivated to see positive change in the school and can communicate that, I think that would be a huge push towards the success of our school district.
Good, thank you. Mark, last question?
I just wanted to, it's a different question for each of you because it applies differently, but something that the state legislature has done is provide additional funding for schools that are really in need, right? And we've seen increases in more urban communities for their school budgets. And something I think that's really important is our regional schools across the Commonwealth working together to advocate on Beacon Hill for funding the promises that the legislature has made to our regional schools and working to fix the problems in those regional schools across the state. So Carrie, I guess for you, have you done advocacy, or what advocacy have you done in relation to that? And then for you, have you done advocacy work in the past, and are you prepared to go to Beacon Hill and work with other regional schools and other school committee members across the state to address that issue?
So I think the responses will be just a minute or two.
Sure, I can keep that quick and say that I haven't done a lot of that, and that's again when I say that my work in the school committee was sort of taken over by the pandemic. That is one of those things that I really would have liked to have engaged more in this time, and is something that I'm interested in pursuing if I were to be reelected.
Dara, answer.
I feel like I've advocated on a personal level and a professional level. Prior to my current job right now, I was a part of the nurses union and advocating for safe staffing, safe patient nursing ratios with my union. I've done that. But on an educational level, I haven't. But on a personal level, just advocating for one of my children right now, just getting help that we need and really being the driving force as a parent who needs services for their children, I feel like it's just a practice advocating right now, and I feel like it's preparing me to advocate as a school committee member.
Good. Any other questions from the audience? Anybody? Raise your hands if you'd like to ask a question. Beautiful. Moving on. Right? Thank you, ladies. Good luck to both of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. 5-year term for Planning Board, Dave Matinio, who's not here, but he's on the ballot. Next and last, Tree Warden for 3 years. Candidate for re-election, Alan Tatro, and challenger, Frederick Ted Steves. You know, when this Zoom thing came up, I thought it was another circus thing at Disneyland or something. I didn't know what the hell it was all about. So. No. So, Alan, will since you're up for re-election, the candidate, we'll let you go first.
Well, good evening, everybody. And I'd like, again, to thank the Brothers of the Brush for putting this event on. I'm sure many of you know who I am. I've been around town for quite a few years. My family's been here since the late 1800s. I graduated Mendon schools. My kids went to Mendon schools. I have a son who was a police officer in town. I've been a highway surveyor for 27 years. I've been the tree warden for 10 years. I worked with the past tree warden since I've been a highway surveyor. I just want to continue doing business as usual. I really don't have a lot new to say. I think I've been doing a pretty good job at it. I stay within the budget, and I stay very safe at what I do, and I would appreciate your vote.
Ted?
Good evening. My name is Ted Steves. I want to thank the Brothers of the Brush for sponsoring this event. I will be honest, I was a little bit nervous. I've never been in this kind of a forum before. I've never held a public office before. I'm from Ashland originally. I can tell you that in 1983, when I started Steve's Tree Service, three important things happened to me that year. I started my business. I met my wife at a Friendly's restaurant. Does anybody remember Friendly's? She handed me a bowl of chocolate ice cream, and she said, "A dish for a dish," and that was history. That was the end. And the third thing that happened was I bought this 6-acre parcel on Blackstone Street in Mendon, and here I'm living in Ashland. I'm in Mendon. Where's Mendon? It's on the other side of the world. All I knew about Mendon was, oh, they have a drive-in. That's what I knew about Mendon. So I became a taxpayer in Mendon that almost 40 years ago, and but we didn't, after a brief stopover in Milford for 15 years, it was supposed to be the 5-year plan, became the 15-year. We didn't break ground on Blackstone Street till '01, and we moved in '03, so it's been up just about 20 years. Trees have been my life. I've been in business as Steve's Tree Service since then, and as I said, I've never held a public office. The only office I ever held was in Key Club in high school, so this is kind of all new to me. But I'm a businessman, and what I know is trees. I'm a certified arborist, and I've been doing business. In fact, I know a lot of the faces in this room, and I've done work for a lot of you and people online. We do excellent work, but trees are, besides my wife and kids and 3 grandchildren, 2 on the way, passion of mine. Trees are my passion. So that's been my life, assessing trees, cutting trees, pruning trees. That's what I do. And because I've been a businessman in the tree industry, I think I bring a specific special talent to the table, not only being able to assess trees, but also to be able to do business with contractors, because that's what I do. We have our lane and we do what we do, but there's a lot of things that are beyond my scope, right? When you need a crane or you need a log loader or this, that. So I have subcontracted with local tree services, most of which I'm pretty familiar with in the area, and been doing that for years. So I know anybody who's had tree work done knows that there's a lot of people out there who are fishing, right? There's a lot of unfairness and skullduggery that goes on in the tree business, but there's there's a fairness, there is a price point, and I've got a good handle on the industry because that's what I do, and that's what I've been doing for almost 40 years.
Good, thank you. Any questions from the audience about our two candidates, one for re-election and a candidate? Ted? Yes.
This question is for Mr. Tatro. Are you aware of two trees in this town that date back to the 1800s when your family first arrived?
Yes.
It's a test. All right. And can you tell me where they're located?
Founders Park.
Thank you. You win.
Those sycamore trees.
Hello, Brendan Chanel, 16 Washington. I just wanted to ask you a question about invasive pests. I know, for instance, the emerald ash borer has killed all the ash trees on Washington Street. Do you see any other invasive pests coming down the pike that might impact your work?
Is that for me?
Both of you.
Oh.
Go ahead.
Well, it seems like we've just gotten through the moths, right? And everybody's seen the dead oak trees, and Alan's done a great job getting rid of those trees, and I know that's been a strain on budget, but we're pretty much through that now. Emerald ash borer is the other big one, but that seems to be a slower killer. They linger, the ash trees linger for years, but they just kind of, eventually they give up the ghost, right? But for me, it's all about safety. You know, you got to address the trees that pose the greatest public danger first, which is roadside trees and public spaces like the parks. But yeah, those diseases you're talking about, they're cyclical, so we probably haven't seen the end of gypsy moth. They'll be back every 7 years.
Alan?
Yeah. I have to agree with them. The gypsy moths, they did quite a job on the oak trees. We still have quite a few left to take care of. The red oaks, I'm trying to take care of first because they'll fall before a white oak. A white oak tree is way more denser than a red, and they will stay standing dead quite a bit longer than a red, so I've been trying to concentrate on the red oaks. Right now I'm concentrating on ash trees, on the highly traveled roads, obviously first. And if you look around, there's still quite a few out there. The issue being is, again, I have been working for the town actually for 37 years. This will be my 37th year. I worked for the previous highway surveyor for 10 years before I became elected. I feel as though that I know this town pretty well. So back to the trees, the issue with I'm having, I use two different tree companies. I went out to bid. These two companies were pretty much the cheapest, reliable, safest people that we could get. They're so busy. Everybody's so busy in the tree industry, and I believe Ted will agree with this. It's really hard to get guys to come once a week or whatever to do what they got to do. And with the amount of traffic that we have in Mendon, and the chief is here, he can attest to this, the traffic is incredible in Mendon. It's very time consuming taking these trees down on these busy roads. So that's why I think it's taken too long, but it's just a fact. It's just, things have to go slow. That's why, I don't know if anybody's noticed, but there's still quite a few trees that need to be taken down in this town.
I'm going to allow one more question, then we're going to have the candidates wrap it up with one last comment. Mark, no questions? Well, thank you. Any comments? Any closing comments? Ted? Alan?
Safety first.
There you go. Well, I wish you both well. Thank you so much for your service, both of you. Thank you. To all the the candidates that came tonight, thank you, and I wish you all well. To those folks that were watching us or listening to us, thank you. And I want to thank Dan, who ran that big board behind there, and Tom for doing this. And please stay with us. We have refreshments up back, although it's not a normal Brothers refreshment table, but it does have coffee and some pastries, and you have a chance to maybe ask another question of the candidates over a cup of coffee. Thank you so much, and God bless everybody.